Every single one of my lifelong friends is gone. The quiet loneliness, now at the age of 100 years. For most of his life, Dick Van Dyke seemed to defy time itself. He danced on rooftops. He skipped through sound stages. He laughed with an ease that made joy look effortless. To the world, he was eternal optimism in motion, proof that aging didn't have to be bitter, that life could stay light if you carried it the right way. But now that he's turned 100 years old on December 13th, 2025, Dick Van Dyke has revealed something far more fragile and far more human. Something most people never hear from those who live this long. Outliving everyone you once loved in a deeply personal health diary written for the Times, Van Dyke shared a sentence that stopped people cold. Every single one of my dearest lifelong friends is gone. He didn't soften it. He didn't dress it up, he went on to say, which feels just as lonely as it sounds. Imagine that for a moment. The phone calls that once came without thinking, gone. The inside jokes only they would understand, silent. The shared memories stretching back decades, now held by only one living person. Dick Van Dyke has outlived his entire generation. The people who knew him when he was young. The people who watched him become famous. The people who grew old with him. All gone. The world still wants him. It's frustrating to feel diminished in the world, physically and socially. The invitations still arrive. Award shows, tributes, work opportunities in New York and Chicago. But he turns most of them down now. That kind of travel takes so much out of me that I have to say no, he wrote. Almost all of my visiting with folks has to happen at my house. The world still wants Dick Van Dyke, but the body that once danced across movie sets no longer keeps pace with the spirit inside it. He describes himself with gentle humor and honesty. I'm a stooper, a shuffler, and a teeterer. His eyesight is fading. His hearing isn't what it was. For a man whose career was built on movement, grace, and rhythm, this loss carries a particular ache, the love that keeps him here, and yet this is not where the story ends. Because Dick Van Dyke refuses to let loneliness be the final word, he credits one person above all else for that, Arlene Silver. Arlene is 54 years old, 45 years younger than Dick. They met in 2006 at a Screen Actors Guild awards dinner. They became friends first, real friends. She later helped him through the grief of losing his previous partner. Love came quietly after that. They married in 2012, and she has been his anchor ever since. Without question, our ongoing romance is the most important reason I have not withered away into a hermetic grouch, Van Dyke wrote. With typical humor, he added, Arlene is half my age, and she makes me feel somewhere between 2/3 and 3/4 my age, which is still saying a lot. She gets him to the gym 3 times a week. She keeps him engaged, curious, playful. A director who worked on Van Dyke's 100th birthday documentary put it simply. Honestly, I think she's been a key force in keeping him so vibrant and alive. I think they just want to play. At 99, after burying almost everyone who once knew you best, a philosophy that refused to die, even now, even with loss and decline pressing in, Dick Van Dyke refuses to surrender his core belief. For the vast majority of my years, he wrote, I have been in what I can only describe as a full-on bear hug with the experience of living. To him, life was never a burden. Being alive has been doing life not like a job, but rather like a giant playground. A playground. That's how he frames a century of living. Not suffering, not endurance, but play. Choosing joy in the face of everything, Van Dyke is clear-eyed about hardship. He does not deny it. Failures and defeats, personal losses, loneliness and bitterness, the physical and emotional pains of aging. That stuff is real, he wrote. But then comes the line that defines him. I have not let it define me. That refusal, stubborn, gentle, lifelong, is why he made it to 100, with his spirit intact. When asked about death, something no 100-year-old can ignore, Van Dyke offered words that feel almost otherworldly in their peace. I'm acutely aware that I could go any day now, but I don't know why it doesn't concern me. I'm not afraid of it. Then quietly, I have that feeling, totally against anything intellectual, that I'm gonna be all right. Peace, not denial, not bravado, just peace. At 100 years old, he's one of the last living links to Hollywood's golden age. He celebrated without the friends who walked most of the road with him. But he didn't celebrate alone. He had Arlene. He had his family. He had millions of people whose lives he brightened without ever knowing their names. And he leaves us with something far more valuable than nostalgia. A reminder that joy is a choice, that love can find you at any age, that loneliness is real, but resilience is too, that bodies fail, but spirits don't have to. Dick Van Dyke's story is not just about fame or longevity. It's about what it means to be human at the very edge of life, to ache and still hope, to lose and still love, to shuffle when you once danced, and call it a gift anyway. That isn't just inspiration. That's wisdom earned the hard way. Good to have you around at 100 years old, Dick Van Dyke. Thank you for teaching us how to live and how to grow old without growing bitter. The world needs that lesson now more than ever. What do you think about living to 100 years old or more? Let me know. Stick around for more. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.